Welcome back to Shrink Tank Live. I'm Melissa Miller. I have Elise Howell with me today.
Hey, everybody.
You might recognize she was not here last week. I was. This is going to be kind of how we do it. Every week we're going to have a variety of different hosts on because we are actually all psychologists or therapists at a large group practice in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we just think that there's a lot of great people to contribute and who have different insight or opinions. And what kind of makes this show unique is that instead of having a kind of a guest contributor come onto a show to talk about the mental health aspect, that's all we do. So our filter is all mental health through pop culture. And so we just have a lot of people here who've got great stuff to say. So it's going to be a rotating cast every Friday. So get excited. It's going to be always a surprise to see who's on. But Elise, super happy to have you here with me.
I'm so excited to be here. And you and Tarek did an awesome job last week. I love how you ended with this message about being kind to people, and that left me feeling really great the rest of my Friday.
Oh, good. So it's sort of needed, right?
I thought that first episode was a wonderful start. But how are you feeling this morning? You look like you're hanging on for dear life over there a little bit.
I'm not feeling great, Elise.
Yeah.
But not for reasons that people might be assuming.
Okay.
I'm not hungover. I'm not sick. I tried something new this morning in my pursuit of health. So I really like to focus on health and trying to make sure that I am living a healthy life. This doesn't mean anything to do with weight. This means like making sure that my brain and my heart and everything is like in a good state. And I love listening to Dr. Cabral. He has a podcast that's on daily. It's called The Cabral Concept. And I listen to it every morning. And yesterday he talked about these 5 forgotten Tibetan exercises that promote longevity. And it takes 5 minutes a day, 5 exercises. And he kind of challenged everybody to incorporate them. And I tried this morning. And they are supposed to open up all your chakras.
Okay.
And
yours are too open?
Way too open.
Okay.
It's some powerful voodoo. I feel like I just got off of a spinning upside down roller coaster. Like everything is shaking. My innards are cartwheeling right now. So if I happen to run off, everyone's a little nervous that I might spew.
I'm not nervous.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it.
We are here for you. That's one of my favorite things about following your health journey is you always find this new weird thing that's something to clear your sinuses or your chakras, and usually you're doing mold cleanses.
Shampoo.
You know,
yeah.
I just think there's a lot of great things that we don't hear about in Western medicine that are good for our overall health. And so why not try to live our best, right?
You take that really holistic approach to mental health seriously. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So hoping to keep it down.
Okay. We'll make it through this episode without any upchucks, hopefully.
What are we going to be talking about today?
Today we are talking about some topics that I think you and I especially are really excited about. We're going to be talking about T.I. and his daughter. There was a story that came out recently just about how involved he is in her feminine health.
Feminine health. What a great way of putting that.
So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about Thanksgiving and big sales and the psychology behind this hit that we get when we find a really good deal. Black Friday is coming up. And then we're going to end talking about Okay Boomer, this meme that has gone viral among millennials. So,
and don't forget, we're going to sneak People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive in there too.
Yes, sprinkle a little of that fun. So T.I., he was on a podcast lately and shared how he goes to his daughter's OBGYN appointments, and he wants a report on whether or not her hymen is still intact and to know whether or not that she's still a virgin. And he shared this in a podcast interview, and so it has blown up. He's gotten a lot of backlash. She has gotten backlash. She's gotten some support, and gosh, that's such a personal thing to have out there and to have so many people be talking about.
Can you even imagine being 18 years old and having all of America talking today about whether or not you're a virgin and how your dad handles your sexual health?
No.
So embarrassing.
I would be mortified.
Mortified.
Yeah.
So there's the privacy issue. Like,
Yes.
what has he done to damage her now, right? Like this sense of shame, this public humility, because everybody's going to have an opinion on this, right? Like, everybody's making judgments on this about her, and I think from a mental health aspect, that is crippling for a young woman who's still developing her sense of identity.
Yeah, it does send this message about shame, and whenever shame is present, people tend to shut down. And if his goal is to be involved in his daughter's development of her values and her decision making, that's going to do the opposite, right? That's going to push her away from him.
Right. I know you and I often talk about the metaphor of when you're working with teenagers, that there's this drawbridge metaphor. Like, they're in the castle and you want to get in. And we need to work on helping them to put down the drawbridge so that you can enter and have a close, trusting relationship, right?
Yes.
I think he's done, like, everything to, like...
for her to keep her drawbridge up.
That's right.
Because what helps teens' drawbridges open is non-judgment, validation, showing that you understand their thoughts and feelings. You're not trying to control them.
In that word control is a big one.
Yes.
And I know that, honestly, when I really take a step back and look about and think about how many people might be thinking about this, I think there's probably a lot of parents out there who might not publicly admit, but they might be like, well, hey, maybe this isn't such a bad thing. I don't want my daughter having sex. I want to be in control of that. I want to lock this down. And so they might be wondering, how can I do that?
But what we know is that control backfires, because when we try to control, your teen is just going to dig in their heels more, and kind of go underground. That if you want to have a voice and have influence over their decision making, controlling it yourself does the exact opposite.
Yeah. So kind of the advice is to back it up, and what we want to help parents understand is like building a trusting relationship, being able to have conversations where you're listening and hearing and sharing your values, and mutual communication is probably much better than
control and judgment and imposing values. You want them to develop their own values. They have a strong voice, because if you're imposing your values on them, when they get out there in the real world, they're going to make a lot of reactionary decisions.
Right. And it's a setup for failure.
Yes. And so just thinking about where his daughter is at.
Right.
Just really scared for her.
Right. Let me put a little plug in here.
Yes.
One of our producers just reminded me, in the nearish future, probably...
The nearest future?
Yeah. Probably spring of 2020, there is going to be a docu-series, if dads especially. So I think this, has highlighted that I think dads want to be involved in kids' lives, and especially their daughters, but maybe don't know the best ways. There is a docu-series coming out that I'm really proud to be one of the producers on, and Southeast Psych is one of the executive producers. And we have a filmmaker, Brett Culp, and it's exactly on this. It's for dads to help them understand the positive and important role they play in their daughter's life. And so be on the lookout for that. That's pretty exciting.
A voice that carries.
Voice that carries. That's right. One more thing I have on this, too, is one thing that really hit me the wrong way when I kind of read more about what T.I. said. I think most doctors are coming out and saying, these are not scientific. There's no scientifically valid test that if you have a hymen intact, it means you're a virgin.
Yes.
Like, there's no virgin test. But T.I. very much came out and said, I ignore when doctors tell me that it doesn't mean she hasn't had sex. That's really scary to me, that ignoring science just for this feeling of control.
Yeah, for his anxieties to be reassured that he doesn't care that exercise, horseback riding, a lot of other activity could impact that.
Right.
And he's just say, whatever, this is my values, my way. are more important, in my opinion, the subjectivity rather than the objective fact, which is so dangerous. And I think something that hit me the wrong way with this is just how much it just perpetuates this narrative of men feeling like they're in control of women's bodies and can make decisions for women about their reproductive health, their feminine health, their sexual health, and sending this message of shame. If you should be ashamed if you're not a virgin, but then also don't want to talk about periods and really real things that women experience. I think there's so much shame about the female body. And for our young women, we want them to be able to talk about it, to feel supported, to be developing a really healthy view of themselves.
Right.
And I just think this doesn't set up a good environment for open and healthy conversation.
Right. And I kind of feel like as an American culture, we've made some progress in not saying that not being a virgin comes with judgment. Like, it doesn't mean you've done something bad, especially if it's like a mutually consensual, loving relationship. Like, I don't know, are we doing the same for our boys? Like, testing their virginity? Because it kind of seems like we're still celebrating. The men in here are shaking their heads.
Oh my gosh.
You know, we can't have this double standard. And I thought we have been fighting so hard against this, that there should not be a double sexual standard. But when it comes to not just our nation, but worldwide, you're right. It's really dangerous when we start valuing women for whether or not they're virgins.
Yes.
Yeah. So, ick. Let's go from one male story to
Men are
maybe.
pigs.
All of them.
Science proves men are pigs.
Let's
You heard it here
study.
first.
Yeah.
But let's pivot to a happy male story.
Yes. I know you're especially excited about this.
I am. So we're going to talk about People Magazine came out with their Sexiest Man Alive issue this week. I first want to say, though, I don't really support this idea of having a Sexiest Man Alive. I think I don't think there's one version of sexy that applies to everyone. And so, I don't know. I just have issue with trying to pick one man for sex appeal and celebrating that.
Yeah, and that kind of puts this stereotype out there about what's sexy, and then it's going to impact what people are looking for and perpetuate some cultural biases that exist in the dating pool. So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Right.
Yeah.
That being said, I was really excited about their pick this year.
Well, who is their pick?
Their pick is John Legend.
Ow!
Woo! That's right. And here's why I am really excited about this. So whether or not I agree with that the People Magazine does this, they do. But the message they're sending this year, I think, gets it right. Because I think the message needs to be that sexy is a loving act that makes you attracted for good reasons, right?
Yes.
It's not a dangerous, mysterious bad boy.
Who's a player and dating all of these young women, which in
That's
the past, and I'm pretty sure Brad Pitt and Leo have
Mel
been
Gibson. Actually, Leo has never been. Can you believe it?
Oh, I bet that kills them.
I know. I know. But you're right.
Sorry,
Traditionally,
Leo.
it is kind of the uber masculine stereotype. Mel Gibson, you're right. Brad Pitt, The Rock.
Yeah.
Which we're not denying that there's not some sex appeal to that, right? But if the message is what we want as women is to be valued and loved and listened to and really just be treated lovingly, he is the epitome of that, right?
I love his relationship with Chrissy Teigen.
Oh my gosh.
They're always together. They love eating food together, and
it's so respectful.
Yes.
He adores her and takes good care of her and his kids, right? Yes. Like, he's a loving father. He is monogamous. He's not a player. His music speaks to love. Like, there's romance in it.
It's very wholesome. Like,
yes.
And there's never any scandal with him and his family and his relationship with Chrissy.
He's just a good guy.
Yeah, so that is refreshing to see.
Yes. So thumbs up on if that's what sexy means. I'm all for it. Yes. And let's send that message to our girls. Like, this is what we want. You to be treated well.
quick side note. Did you see Chrissy Teigen's tweet after that or no?
No. What?
She put a tweet out and she said the sexiest man alive just made me a sandwich.
I did see that.
Oh my gosh.
I
that's
love it.
goals. That is
Goals.
what you want. You want a nice man who's going to make you a sandwich.
Would your husbands make you sandwiches?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sexy.
We're married to good guys.
Yes.
Not the bad boys. We're not constant drama.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
We did well.
Oh, you're
I
was watching
I
it.
thought I was gonna just be sitting out there.
Let's send that to her husband.
All right.
All right,
Next
so-
topic.
It is that time of year when all the Black Friday sales start coming out.
2 weeks from today is Black Friday.
Yes. Melissa, what has been one of the most exciting deals you've ever scored?
Oh, gosh. My friends will know this about me. I don't know that I'd have to stop and think about the most exciting. Nope, I know it. But I am a person who loves a deal. I love a bargain, and it doesn't matter if I need it or not. Like, if I feel like I'm getting a great deal, I cannot resist. It feels so good
Like
to me.
addicting.
Right.
That rush of I saved this amount
That's
of
right.
money. Yeah.
All right, so there's a little embarrassment that comes with this story.
Okay.
But when I was in college, didn't have a lot of money, right? I'm a college student, and I was shopping at Shoe Carnival.
Okay.
That's right. Have you heard of a Shoe
I have
Carnival?
heard of a shoe carnival.
Yeah. Sort of a circus in there, but I needed a pair of like summer sandals. And all of a sudden, like the lights go off, like circus lights start flashing, and they're like, enter the hula hoop contest for a free pair of shoes. And I was like, free pair of shoes?
Hula hoop?
Absolutely,
Yes.
right? I was very good at hula hooping when I was a young child. That and pogo sticking, like I just really enjoyed.
Why didn't we have
that.
those props here today? We missed an opportunity.
Yeah, big missed opportunity
Okay.
there. So I was like, oh, for sure I'm going to hula hoop.
Okay.
And so it starts out, there's probably like 10 people who go to the center and they pass out hula hoops. This is so embarrassing. And we all start hula hooping, and it gets down to me and like this 9-year-old girl. And here I am like hula hooping and with this dilemma of like, this sweet girl could use this victory and I could really just stop now because this would be a great win for her.
Oh, Melissa.
But then this other side of me that's super competitive and just wanted this free pair of shoes was like,
Oh my
I can't give that to her today. She's going to need a win elsewhere. And I hung on until she dropped out and I got a free pair of shoes.
This like doesn't fit with my. How guilty do you feel about that? This doesn't
Pretty
fit
guilty.
with my understanding, like experience of you.
But I think that's what happens at Black Friday, right?
You
Like,
get
it
a
brings
little
out-
caught up. You're like,
That's
I've
right.
got it. You jump on a washer and dryer that you're trying to hold. Like, this is mine.
Right.
So what is it about? Why do our brains go kind of haywire?
So it, I think that there is, I kind of read this really interesting thing that this is like our hunting and gathering history,
Oh,
evolutionary, right? Right. I mean, it really does bring out the barbarian in us.
Competitiveness.
Right.
Yeah.
This seeking and finding. And what research will show is it's not about buying, like, you're getting the brands that you want. It's not because you need it. It really is that it feels super rewarding to our brains to feel like we have just gotten something.
Yes, and I got it, and they didn't. Like I won.
Exactly.
It is this competition.
Yep.
I've got to be there first. I got to get in line. I got to wait. And there's also this bonding experience that comes from it. I know I haven't gone Black Friday shopping in person in a long time, but there was this rush of getting up early, preparing. It is this hunter. You're preparing for the hunt. You're planning it out.
Right.
And maybe it's a way for us to use.
And
that
it's sort of
part our
tribal
brain.
too,
Yeah.
right? Like I do
Absolutely.
think certainly people go and do it by themselves, and that's more of the, personal reward. But I do think there's this tribal sense of you go with your people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing families wearing matching T-shirts.
So they can
and
find each other. Yeah.
That's right. And they go early and it's the lack of sleep. And now they've got this bonding story of they did something really unusual, really kind of silly and fun. People have even been interviewed. Like, we don't even really need anything. We're just going for the experience. That I can understand.
Yeah. But what a great marketing trick there that retailers are playing on our brain that they're getting us to buy a bunch of things we don't need.
That's right, because we think we're getting something good.
We're spending more money. So have fun this year, Black Friday shopping, but keep that in mind for sure. And then we also see this with extreme couponing. We were talking about that. Like, people get really I've only done it once where
You've done it?
Where you get like a bunch of coupons and you have to plan out what deals are at the grocery store. I did this when I was like right out of college, and you're trying to figure out how to save money on groceries. And it was this really cool thing where like, I just got $80 worth of food for like $5. And that's
amazing.
Crazy. But it took so much time, and printing out coupons and finding coupons. The other night, I was getting cold medicine for my husband. It was pretty late, and I'm in Walgreens, and there are these two ladies, and they have their coupons like all over the counter, and they were so excited. So it's like this thing you get a hit from of dopamine. Right. You found the deal.
Yep.
But do you really need all of those things that you're buying? Depends.
Right. Very much depends.
Yeah.
One thing that I found really interesting is there's a research study that was done about JCPenney that kind of gives insight into why, like, do we even need sales? And JCPenney decided decades ago that they were just going to say, we're always offering rock bottom price. We're never going to have sales. And it didn't work. Like, people hated that. Their revenue dropped. And so they had to go back to doing these promotions to get people excited.
It gets people in the store.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you? Are you any great deals that you want to share?
No, when I do Black Friday shopping, I haven't had a really big purchase I've had to make yet. I don't own a home, so I haven't had to buy appliances, and I think I have this guilt complex with shopping that I feel guilty after I purchase something. Our producer is shocked over here. And so getting into that mentality, even if I'm saving money, it still makes me a little nervous to get caught up. So I'd rather plan out a purchase and look for a deal on my own and not get caught up in the frenzy. So I feel really confident, and I don't come home with this like emotional hangover from all of the purchases that I've made.
I think a lot of people probably have that remorse, right? Yeah. So what I'm curious about is how much is returned after these sales, right? Like how much are people like, do I really need this? And they got the buzz of I got a deal, but do they keep it or not? I don't know.
Yeah, share with us. Do you return? Do you keep it? Do you realize, I didn't need this, I got caught up?
Right.
Anything you're looking for this year?
Nope. So we keep our Christmases pretty modest. So we don't do large purchases around this time. We try to buy more things of need, all small items. I will say, though, the thing I do get caught up in is Amazon Prime Day in the summer. Okay. I feel like I'm getting a great deal. Yes. And I really like to pour through the deals as they come in.
And with that online shopping, when we're not actually handing cash, I've heard psychologically it's easier to just click and spend your card. So that's something to keep in mind too.
Totally. Yeah. How does your husband handle finances and holiday shopping?
I feel like this question was a plan. So my husband works in finance, and we actually have this setup where since he's working with numbers all day, every day, I do our budgeting, because when he gets home, he doesn't want to think about numbers.
That.
And there's a lot of trust there that like I'm also a numbers person. I love math. I used to want to be a math teacher before I found psychology, but I think he trusts that if I say, we've planned this out, we're saving what we need to, all of our numbers are right, he trusts like, okay, we've got this amount to spend. And we're also not big gift givers. We like experiences and traveling. So it doesn't, surprisingly, does not stress him out. Yeah. So the last kind of trending topic that we wanted to talk about today is okay boomer. And this term has been around for a little bit, but in the past couple of weeks has gone viral. And so millennials, we've heard a lot about millennials the past couple of years, and it has become sort of a derogatory term associated with, you're millennial, you're a snowflake, you have all these strong ideals, but you're not living in the real world.
Right.
And so there was, excuse me, I guess this term started when there's a video of a man out there he's saying millennials have Peter Pan syndrome, and millennials kind of came back with this term, okay, boomer.
Right.
And it's a way to communicate to the older generations that they're also out of touch. They're trying to take back the narrative of like we're not the problem. We're not the only problem. So now it's turned into a meme, and if you're on social media, they're all.
I did a search for OK Boomer last night
Yes.
on Twitter, and it showed in the last hour there were 1,200 tweets. In 1 hour, 1,200 tweets that were hashtagged OK Boomer.
Yeah. Any favorites that you saw?
So I feel like I have a little bit of a great seat for this because I'm not a millennial
Yeah.
and I'm not a boomer. So I'm kind of sitting back and...
You're not a boomer?
Okay. Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer.
For a while, I was sort of enjoying the show. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's sort of funny. It's a little bit like when a little brother has finally gotten the power to, like, find something to jab the older sibling with, and it just lights that person up. It's like their constant little poke.
Yes.
And to just watch both sides do this, I think
But
has
now
been a little funny.
They're empowered. They've got this. People are calling it a battle cry of this really quick and succinct way to say, "Hey, you're out of touch. You're not listening to us."
Right.
Have your kids called you boomer this week? No. Okay.
Are they still alive?
If they do, there will be some serious problems. Thankfully, my kids are 4th and 5th grade, not on social media yet, so I don't know if they'll know what OK Boomer is. Although, surprisingly, both kids know exactly what a Visco girl is, and they're not on social media. So maybe they do know. I'll have to check it out tonight.
About Visco girls another time. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you're doing all of these Eastern longevity practices, so surely they wouldn't mistake you for a boomer.
What's your favorite?
I've just, again, I haven't seen one in particular that's been my favorite. This wasn't a meme, but I saw a video where there's a young woman addressing a legislative body, and she's got a heckler, and she just kind of shuts him down. She says, "Okay, boomer," and keeps going. And her argument was great, and she was super confident. And I think that it's a really fun thing as a meme, but as a therapist, I think it's a really poor communication strategy. That if the end goal is for millennials to get boomers to listen to them, this is just going to trigger more defensiveness.
Right.
More boomers are going to keep feeling these millennials don't hear us. They don't understand what we've been through. And our jobs, right, center around getting people to communicate and hear each other. Right. And what we know is that if you're not listening, validating this whole drawbridge thing we were talking about earlier, if we're not listening, validating others' fears, even if we don't agree, validation doesn't have to mean agreement. Right. People are going to get defensive. They're going to shut down. They're not going to hear us. And so we talk about effective communication isn't always about being right, but if your goal is to be heard, you need to sometimes think about how can I do that effectively rather than just focus on getting my point across. I need to play to their emotions and their fears and let them know I'm willing to listen.
Elise, you make such a good point that while this can be really funny, this is not good for our society. And I think I hope that people can hear what you're saying. Like, yeah, you might think you're right and you might think you're making a difference, but you're actually like just moving the goalpost further and further. Like both sides are going to put their drawbridges up, and now we're just attacking each other when, I mean, really, the issues at hand are human problems. Yes. Right? Like, if it's really over the country's financial state, if it's really over climate change, these are human problems. We're all in this together. And the more that we're just slinging blame, we're not going to work together. The more that we're standing off, we're not going to engage together in trying to be part of the solution. Yeah. So the longer we spend fighting about it, the longer it takes for us to move towards a collective goal. And that's worrisome.
Yeah, that generation gap is just going to grow. And it'll become, if it's always about either the boomers winning or the millennials winning, nobody's winning because the problems aren't being solved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is not new this is not a new phenomenon. No. This has been going on for maybe centuries, but we'll say
Yes.
decades just to be
Yes.
safe. This young versus old. So let's learn from the past at how ineffective it was. Lay down our swords, come together, hearing each other.
Being willing to listen, validate. You don't have to agree, but you can get a long way when you try to build a relationship with somebody and try to understand their perspective. They might be more willing to hear yours, and
Right.
you're not going to lose anything by listening, by trying to be kind and meet somebody in the divide.
Right. Such a good point. So while funny, maybe
Yes.
needs to stop.
And I could see how it can lighten the mood if there's some tension, but we need to follow that up with a healthy dose of validation, of problem solving, of working together. And I would just love to see, I would love some of these mental health concepts to get into the White House
Politics,
and
right.
Capitol Hill, and for them to have people who help them talk more about emotions and having conversations that aren't just about who's right, who's wrong,
Right.
getting my agenda across.
Okay, therapist.